So, everything has come to an end, even the coffee break. And I'm very proud to announce the next speaker, Gregor from Vienna, working at our bronze sponsor pixelpoems in Vienna, Austria. Yes, he is talking about Webpack. I don't know. Yes, I didn't even use Webpack before so much, but I'm really excited to learn something about it. So please clap your hands for Gregor.
So hello guys and girls, if you're still around. It's an honor for me to speak to you. It's like my first ever tech talk, so I tried my best. So first of all, who am I? I'm a full-stack web developer at pixelpoems Vienna. Andreas runs the company for already 20 years now. I have 3 years of experience in professional web development. I have 3 cats and I love music, so that's for me. And to get things clear, this is how web development feels to me. So I consider myself more than a back-end developer than a front-end developer. And at the beginning of this year, we thought, okay, we need to do something about our front-end workflow. There are a few topics we wanted to cover. We wanted to get rid of Bootstrap. We wanted to get rid of jQuery and make our own stuff happen. So then I thought maybe this is the time to switch to Webpack, because everybody uses Webpack, so we have to do that same. At least it felt so. So here are the main topics of my talk. First of all, I like to pick you up all at the same point, so I hope I don't bore anyone, but I want to explain why and how we do asset management in the front end. So then I'd like to explain what is Webpack. Then we had a workflow with Gulp, so I compared to Gulp, Webpack. Then I walk you through the basics and tell you what I learned along the way and what are my experiences with Webpack. So first of all, in Webpack, every asset is a module. I explain it later further, but for now, in Webpack, everything is a module. So, oh, sorry, wrong direction. So why do we need a module bundler or a task runner? For me, it's okay. So we want to automate recurring tasks. We want to do things like auto prefixing, we want to minify our CSS, we want to uglify our JS, we want to use pre-processors and post-processors like Barber as SAS. For those of you who don't know what it is, Barber compiles ES6 code back to ES5, or it's better to say Barber let you use the latest JavaScript features and transpiles it back that the browser can interpret it. And SAS is like an enhancement for CSS. You have like variables, you can do mix-ins and stuff like that, so it's really handy. What else can we do with it? We can remove unused CSS, we can remove unused JS, we can do things like linting, for example, ESLint. We can do image optimization, and we can do tasks like generate icons. So that's what we can do. And what are the reasons for that? So the main reason is user experience. We want to load every page as fast as possible. So we heard yesterday it's like a thought 1 second, and users will leave a site if it loads too slow. That's not good. So if we minify our CSS so it has no more white space and we drop out everything we don't need, it surely loads faster. The same is with JavaScript. And also we want to remove all unused data. Images has like metadata, and we don't maybe need lower resolution for it. So that's all for the user, and then also for developer experience, at least for me. Like I explained before, you can enhance your CSS with Sass, and you can use your latest JavaScript features, and we want to keep our jobs exciting and don't do recurring tasks all the time. So like imagine you have to generate like 40 icons for all icons that are out there, and Webpack helps you to accomplish that. So what is Webpack? At its core, Webpack is a static module bundler for modern JavaScript applications. When Webpack processes your application, it internally builds a dependency graph which maps over modules and generates one or more bundles. So this is how it looks. I'm more a graphical guy, so it does make more sense if you see it like this. What you see here is like how these models depend on each other. If you run it to Webpack, this is what you get. Sorry. You get like one or more JS files and like nice packed bundles of your front-end assets. So, what is Gulp? Gulp, by definition, is a task runner. It solves like a problem of repetition. And it allows you to automate things that can be automated. We don't want to repeat ourselves all the time. So I hope you can read it. So for just an example, this is like a Gulp file for compiling SCSS and CSS. So if you compare them to each other, what was kind of surprising for me that Webpack is even longer around than Gulp. If you look at GitHub, the stars of Webpack are 43,000 and Gulp is about 30,000, and the weekly downloads of Webpack are 4 million and Gulp it's still 800,000. So yeah, that's what the community think. That's how like front-end tooling evolved over the years. Actually, so which one is better? It's hard to say. I think it mostly depends on personal taste. It's like a different mindset how you do things. Here, if you see, you define like a workflow. So do this, do this, do that, and in the end you get your bundle. Webpack is more like it's a tool and you can configure it. So. What does Webpack differently compared to other front-end tooling? So what's nice is Webpack uses a dependency graph. When you bundle a project using Webpack, it traverses the imports, constructs a dependency graph of the project, and then generates output based on the configuration. Additionally, it is possible to define split points to create separate bundles within the project code itself. So what does that mean? Okay, no. The next thing, what is famous, what I think Webpack became really big with React. Sorry. And one of its features is also hot module replacement. So what does that mean? I guess some of you are familiar with live reload and browser sync already. So that's like for production purposes. If you change something in a CSS file or in a JavaScript file, it will reload your browser automatically, so you don't have Command R all the time. Hot modular replacement takes it a step further. So in the case of React, it allows the application to maintain its state without forcing a refresh. So I'm not a React expert, so I can't explain it in any deeper, but I hope you got what it does. So why is this great? That's mainly of the dependency that explains why the dependency graph is great. Webpack is based on JavaScript code modules, and through that fact, it knows how to concatenate your assets. So JavaScript code models are a concept introduced in Gecko 1.9. It's a browser engine and can be used for sharing code between different privileged scopes. So what does that mean for development? Basically, it means Webpack knows how to bundle your assets. You don't have to worry about how you import the JavaScript files or your CSS files. You import them into your models, and Webpack will generate a file for you that does what you want. So don't touch it anymore. So in contrast to Node.js models, Webpack modules can express the dependency in a variety of ways. A few examples are ES 2015 import statements, a CommonJS require statement, an AMD define and require statement, an import statement inside CSS, SAS or less file, an image or URL in a style sheet, or image as a C tag in an HTML file. So let's check out the basics. The first thing you need is you need an entry point. Webpack needs to know where to start the bundling. So in this example, you see this is my main code for app.js, and here I get my CSS, my JavaScript, my CSS files, and here I do something called code splitting. I have a component, and I import it, and in the end I get one bundle for app and one bundle for my awesome component. What else does Webpack need to function? So you need to tell it where to output the file. You can define, it has properties, it's like file name. We want it to be in a folder that's called JavaScript. Then take the name. The name comes from here. So this will be the name of your bundle, app or my awesome component. Then actually we don't use it, but Webpack can also generate content hashes for you. Yeah, and that's the path where it should put the files. Basically, it's a dist folder for us, and to make this happen, Webpack needs an absolute path to the dist folder. So, what else does Webpack need? On a module basis, Webpack needs loaders. What does that mean? If, as I said in the beginning, Webpack interprets everything as JavaScript module. So when it's not JavaScript, it needs a loader to interpret it. So basically, a loader always says, like this test thing, it's a regex where you define what ending of files, what Webpack should do if it finds a PNG, an SVG, a JPEG, a GIF, and what loader it needs to use to interpret this right. Then in the options you can define, okay, where should we put it? Put it into a file that's called images, in a folder that's called images, take the name of the file and put the extension at the end. So, if you need something that has more logic than a loader, in Webpack it's called plugin. It's an example of the Purify CSS plugin. In the first step, you pass it the files you want Purified CSS to inspect, and then you can pass further options to it. So the first thing is we want it to be minified, and then we want some information to it, output it, and we also want the files, the CSS classes that were stripped off to be listed, that we know what's really going on. And then if you have JavaScript files, or you have so if you have CSS classes that are loaded with JavaScript or with PHP, then you need a prefix. Otherwise, it would be stripped off from CSS and your JavaScript. So it's now we have a graphic for all that what I just told you. Like here you have your entry.js. There you import your components.js, your helper.js. Then Webpack takes it, the loader comes in. If you find JS, then use Babel loader and put out the defined output files, the files we told it to generate, the bundles we told it to generate. Oh, nice. So now I'd like to show you what I came up with. And show you some code. So why did that become that small? No, it's okay. So what did I came up with? So first of all, I have a common JS file. Can you read it? I know I need to make it a little bit bigger, I guess. Okay, it doesn't work for now. But basically, what's going on here? First of all, can you read it? That's okay? Okay. First of all, I defined my entries, I defined my output, and then I defined my loaders. So that's basically the same for production and development. Then I have another config file that's just for dev purposes. It doesn't work at the moment. I thought I made it bigger. No. That usually it should work. So, but I think the approach would. Here we go. Yes. 24 is good? Okay, Thank you for the help. Okay. So what do I do in the dev config? We use a library load plugin. I think I already explained it, but if we write some JavaScript or we write some CSS, the browser gets refreshed on every save, and so you don't have to do that manually. We like to have our own CSS files for everything and not have it inlined into JavaScript, what would be the default behavior of Webpack. Yeah, so the clean Webpack plugin kills the dist folder and rebuilds it every time new. Otherwise, you have like one app.js, another app.js, and another app.js, so you need to delete it every time before you do it. Yeah, then I use Webpack merge and to merge the common configuration into my development configuration. So that's pretty much all I do in here. This part right here, if you use a library like jQuery or Lodash or whatever, you don't want it to be, basically you import it into your JavaScript file, but you don't want jQuery to be imported into every JavaScript file. You can set optimizations, split chunks, chunk all, and you get one bundle with the libraries, and you don't have it in every library. So. And then Werner told me there's a problem with symlinking your front-end assets to the public folder with Windows machines. So I found this nice Webpack shell plugin. So basically you tell it when the build is finished, go 2 folders up and run composer vendor expose. So then you don't have to worry about symlinking anymore. So that's what we use for development. So that's maybe a little bit more interesting. So where do we start? Right here. Okay. So we use the image min Webpack plugin, and there you can define what optimizations should be done and what library you want to use it for. Like you see, it's for PNGs, it's for GIFs, it's for JPEGs, it's for SVGs. So that is how your images get processed before they get bundled. What's really nice, we use the Purify CSS plugin that loads all your template files, checks for CSS classes, checks for CSS classes to find. And if it doesn't find the correct ones, it strips them off from the CSS file. So if you have dead code anywhere, it will remove it. Actually, what the Webpack plugin generates icons. I show you how you can configure it and what it does. So here you can tell it, okay, you define, okay, what's the base image for the icons I want. Yeah, you can give the folder prefix name and some other configuration, the background image, and down here you define, okay, I need icons for Android, I need Apple icons, but I don't need Coast Windows icons. And again, here in the end, we use the Webpack shell plugin, which does the composer when they expose for us, so we don't have to worry about that. So far so good. How does it look? So this is the way how we do SCSS. We use architecture that's called ITCSS. It's made by Harry Roberts. So basically, if you look at the main CSS file, we just, that's like the starter template for all our front-end work. So I cleaned it up before you get the presentation, kinda. Basically, we just import our CSS files, you know. So maybe a little bit more interesting, just to prove the concept. So here I have, basically in my entry.js file, I require all the JavaScript files I need. So, and this is like the awesome component. Don't look at the JavaScript, it's not that high-end, but it does, it's enough for this presentation, I thought. What's also pretty amazing, you can like import the CSS right here, if you see this line. So that's also pretty new with Webpack. And that like makes it really easy to build reusable front-end components. Then let's run this. Okay. So, oh, sorry. Bam. So what is going on here? First of all, it's like it puts like really a lot of information into your browser. What is going on here? So here you see in the first line, you don't need to put out this information, but I thought it's like nice to see for the talk. We with Purify CSS reduced our CSS by 35%. So here you see the selectors that were rejected. And this information is, this is the component. So as the component is very small and I just use every CSS I used, it reduces it by 0%. These are the icons that were generated for me. So some other crazy stuff. Here you see the composer when they expose. And as you can see, it only took 2.83 seconds to compile all this stuff. What do you get from this? So this is my dist. So these are all the icons that were generated for me. Here's the CSS that I get. It's like minified and reduced. Here I have the component CSS. Let's close this. And here I have the minified and optimized JavaScript for the app and for the component. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to show. So then, I don't want it to do actually we use Yarn, but I found this image and that's kind of how it feels if you run Yarn install or npm install or whatever. It's like, okay, what does get pulled in? crazy. So good. It's like, so what did we learn so far? Webpack is a module bundler, but you can also use it running tasks as well. Then we heard about the awesome feature of the dependency graph, where Webpack figures out when and how to load your JavaScript and your CSS files. Webpack relies on loaders and plugins. Loaders operate on a module level, and plugins rely on hooks provided by Webpack and have the best access to its execution process. Yeah. So thinking. So then the questions that may come up now for you is, do I really need to switch to Webpack? So this is my opinion. You can prove me wrong, but if you develop JavaScript applications, you should definitely use it. I think that's where Webpack is like really powerful. If you haven't used any of this before, then go for Webpack, because it's the newest, and I think it's already version 4, so I think it will be around for some time. So then if you want to stay up to date with all the new crazy JavaScript stuff, it's definitely also the way to go. Like we heard, React uses Webpack, Vue uses Webpack, Angular uses Webpack. But on the other hand, if you just need to get things done and you don't have that much JavaScript, I don't know if it's worth investing that much time to get the thing done. So I'd say if you're happy with your Gulp or your Grunt or whatever workflow, stay with that. Oh, sorry. So that's why I started to use Webpack. To be really honest, I got caught by the hype. So everybody uses it, so I have to use it. So that's kind of the wrong approach I learned. So, and then like developers are, I'm always in the mood for learning something new. But why does it still make sense to use it? Like I said before, Silverstripe uses it, Vue uses it, React uses it, Angular uses it. So yeah, I think the other points I already mentioned. So why I decided to go like with pure Webpack and not Laravel Mix or Poi is like, in my opinion, like wrappers for tools or tools to run tools are great if you know how the underlying tool works. The chances are pretty high that you have a requirement that is not covered by the library or the wrapper or whatever you use. And then, in my experience, this wrapper or this library is more in the way than it is helping you. So yeah. So my approach to the most things is like, yeah, I wanna know the basics and build it up from there. So actually, okay, I think that's, for me, that's that much important that it got its own slide. So like, often I have people say, oh, I wanna use React. Yeah, but I have no clue how to use ES6. Yeah, then don't use React. They already need it, so learn ES6 first, for example. So what did I learn along the way? Webpack is not as hard as everyone says. You can do it. I made it. Another very important thing is like what I think developers often forget, that web development isn't about the web developer and using the most shiny and newest tools. It's more like get the job done, deliver a great user experience, and take care that you can get down to the conversions. And another thing that's like, on the way I always forget about it, but I think that's really important. Keep it simple, stupid. We heard it before, yesterday, I guess. Yeah. I think I was pretty fast, maybe too fast, so yeah. So now I'm like more in this mood, if you remember the first picture. So I don't over-engineer the back end, and the front end, okay, I can make it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.